Africa is an intriguing place, from apartheid to independence, from wars to freedom, from epidemics to development, from jungles to cities. The continent has come a long way in recent times. The place is like a person growing old and learning things along the way. Well, it's through these experiences that Africa has provided the world with brilliant philosophies concerning different aspects of life. This is African Literature on the NTA, the largest television network in Africa. Nena Basi is my name, and I'm glad to have you join us on this edition. Today's edition takes a look at African morality based on age-long values of collective family life and community well-being.
The ethics of a society is embedded in the ideas and beliefs about what is right or wrong, what is good or bad character. It is in the forms or patterns of behavior that are conceded by members of the society to bring about social harmony and cooperative living, justice and fairness. African societies, as organized and functioning human communities, have undoubtedly evolved ethical systems, values, principles, rules intended to guide social and moral behavior. Every community, towns and villages in Africa are the system of morals which are preserved in their customs and traditions. There is no society in Africa that has no set of do's and don'ts. A society that has no norms or ethically intelligible way of ascertaining and enforcing good conduct is bound to disappear in the short or long run. The inalienable importance of ethics and moral codes in the maintenance of social order and stability in African societies cannot be undiscovered. In other words, African societies were maintained in terms of social order through the observance of traditional ethical principles and customs. To violate or go against the order as religiously legitimated is always to risk plunging into anomaly. In such case, the cosmic order has been wronged and must be righted by the appropriate ritual and moral acts. Tradition and custom in African society define the various aspects of human behavior and social activities that were approved and those aspects that were prohibited and forbidden. All the moral codes of morality were nearly in the form of prohibitions which were sanctioned by the deities and ancestral spirits. This accounts for why many scholars hold the view that African ethics and morality is derived from traditional religion. The belief in divine moral code and the ability of the gods to punish any deviation from or violations of the divine law was the most powerful mechanism of societal control. Traditional African society made no clear distinction between religious law and moral law. It is what religion forbids that the society also forbids, and the society approves what religion approves. Religious values are the same as moral values.
Africans desire to bequeath two things to their children. The first is roots, the other one is wings.
From oral tradition, literary records, observations, and through the lens of ethical relativism, morality as a timeless definition of humanity is influenced by locality. Traditional religion and morality are correlative values, and in view of naturalistic interpretation of reality shows that the society is morally self-sufficient, by which a sustainable policy is realized and enforcement of rules, not cohesion, as in the modern state. The rules achieve core indices of civilization, discipline, peace, and harmony. A fundamental impact of morality involves the domestication of humanity. Emeka Aniagolu, in his novel Ejima, looks at the Igbo culture behind the identical twin phenomenon and other cultures, capturing the fact that there are no moral absolutes.
Well, as you know, Ejima is the Igbo word for twins as well as identical twins. And in the history of Igbo society, there was a time when they thought twins were an oddity and used to throw them away because they thought they were evil things, because they couldn't understand how two human beings could come out looking exactly the same. Because in Igbo cosmology, it's important to understand why they thought that way. They had the concept of chi, and chi was an individuated phenomenon. Everybody had their own chi. And your chi was never going to be the same as anybody else's because you were a specific individual, unique in your individuality. But to find two people that look exactly alike, how were their chi? Are their chi the same? Are their chi different? How is this supposed to work? This must be a strange thing. So they got rid of them. And obviously that changed over time. But I found it intriguing that across the river Niger, you had another major ethnic group of people called the Yoruba, who literally venerated identical twins, and which was a diametrical difference from what the Igbos had. And then, of course, there was the European element, where some missionaries came, a prominent one, the Scottish lady, Mary Slessor, in the case of the Ibibio, who did the same practice and so forth, trying to stop that. My thing was to make sure that the story is retold in literary terms that captures the fact that there are no moral absolutes. You are not these barbarous people in Africa and these well-moral people in Europe, because Europeans had a lot of their own problems, including killing women as witches and burning them at the stake, and so on and so forth.
Igbo land and the interaction with Europe is the setting of the piece.
The primary setting is in Igbo land, but the story goes back and forth between Europe, in this case the UK, and back to Nigeria until the missionary comes to Africa, and then the story moves in a sort of linear direction from there on.
The work is written in simple English, or what can be referred to as a Chebian kind of language infused with proverbs.
It's written in English, but it's written in the English that I like to copy Chinua Achebe's style. I call the Achebean school of literature, which is employing African proverbs and a particular way of saying things that captures the literary aesthetics or sensibilities of the African.
Feminism, intrusion of Western religion into Igbo culture, and innate sense of conscience in the Africans are some of the themes captured in the work.
Struggle, which you try to create some sort of a friction within the society. Obviously, Igbo culture at the time in question was a patriarchal system. And a woman emerging, trying to be a leader and trying to organize women to change the norms of society is likely to generate friction between those who consider themselves already running things in charge the way we've always done it and this and that and the other, which always goes with the name tradition, as if traditions can't change in the face of new realities and so forth and so on. So there is that dynamic within the society as well, between the women and the men and the patriarchy, etc. And how that's resolved makes for very interesting reading. And of course, there's the element of the evil forest, Ajofia, which is where they used to throw, those twins and people who do bad things, murderers and this, that, and the other, and how the women there organized themselves to try and rescue some of the twins that were sent there. and the network they created, that's part of giving that agency to them, and a clandestine network that they were able to run quietly and so on. And then, of course, the taxation question of when the colonial government and how that network was used by the women as a way of challenging the business of colonial taxation. All of that is caught there. And that's the historian in me trying to smuggle history into the literature.
Emeka made use of an array of female characters, seen to be more versatile than the male, and they go to the agony of childbearing, making the story more interesting.
Well, first of all, I've always found that female characters tend to be a bit more versatile than male characters. So when you use them, they can be put to so many other uses. They can be wives, husbands, mothers, and this, that, and the other. Men usually, either you're a hero or you're some sort of a scoundrel, and you're pretty much done with the dimension of the thing. So I found that I had to use a couple of women. First of all, they obviously had to be mothers who gave birth to the Ejimas. And they had to be those that acquiesced to the tradition in spite of their personal pain, and the ones who were befuddled by it, and it compounded their pain. And then the ones who acted on the fact that they just didn't think this was right, and then brought people together, and the different forces of each personality and so on created a very interesting story.
Conflict, believable resolution and setting, and complex plot made the work a success.
Well, I think there are standard ones. There's got to be conflict. There has to be some sort of resolution, at least a believable resolution. I'm sure if I had said in the novel that the Ejimas resurrected from the dead and went into heaven, it might look a little hokey. So you have to have a believable resolution to the conflict you create or derives from the story. I also think that you have to have a setting where you describe sufficiently the setting in which the story is set, that the reader feels like they're almost there and can somehow imagine from the novel the context in which the action of the characters are taking place.
How then does Emeka rate his work?
Well, the only way you can, without sounding like somebody who's afflicted by the excessive pride called hubris, is by what people tell you. And all of that I've seen both on Amazon and so on, people say is a wonderful novel. And my daughter, I don't know whether you know how children deal with their parents. You're just daddy. You can be whatever it is you are, but you're just daddy. So every time I wrote a book, I would autograph one for them, each one of them, but they never really bothered. It's just daddy, But then the younger one, the medical doctor, when she was coming once to this country, she took that Ejima and read it on the plane and said she couldn't drop the book. And that was the first of my novels she had ever read. So when she came and landed in Lagos and I had gone to see her and so forth, she said, "Daddy, you have to write a sequel because the Ejima ends on a cliffhanger." But I don't know if you know how much writing can take out of you. It literally can suck the life out of you. And in my case, when I have a story that I'm writing, it rides me almost like someone riding a horse. Night and day is plaguing my mind. I'm trying, So when I'm done, I feel like I've relieved myself of something. For someone to come and start suggesting writing another one after that. But then, a few months later, I saw the point she was making, but I still didn't have the energy, the stamina. And then later on, the story came. And then I wrote the sequel called Aftermath, which is a sequel to Ejima. And many of the things that the reader who gets to the point where the Ejima novel ends by saying, "Oh my God, what happened, what would have happened?" are then resolved in that sequel.
Africans desire to bequeath two things to their children. The first is roots, the other one is wings.
Ejima, a novel by Emeka Aniagolu, is his current work of fiction on history and science, which follows to mark the third sequence of his trilogy. Ozo, a story of African knighthood, and Hollows of the Mask. Ejima is about the internal challenging cultural practices and beliefs of traditional African Igbo society of the past with regards to their ageless custom of doing away with identical twins, as well as the external incursion of the new Western order through the Christian proselytizers in Nigeria, specifically in Igbo land. Emeka Aniagolu is from Amankwoeke in Enugu State, Nigeria. He attended Government College Umuahia, had his university education in the United States of America at Xavier University, Cincinnati, Ohio, and Ohio State University, Columbus, Ohio, for his graduate work. He was a professor in the Black World Studies of Ohio Wesleyan University, Delaware, Ohio, where he taught African and African-American history and politics for 36 years. He also taught as an adjunct professor in international studies at the Ohio State University, Columbus, Ohio, for many years. Emeka Aniagolu is the author of 18 works of fiction and non-fiction. His first novel, Black Mustard Seed, is critically acclaimed by major scholars in the field of African literature, including the great African novelist Chinua Achebe. The book was nominated for Commonwealth Writers' Prize in August of 2002. He also wrote the groundbreaking comparative work on Chinua Achebe and Wole Soyinka titled A Tale of Two Giants in 2016. He is the recipient of numerous awards and recognitions, including, but not limited to, the Ohio State University Teaching Excellence Award, the Living Faith Award in the State of Ohio, and the State of Ohio Martin Luther King Jr. Educational Excellence Award. He is an innovator and entrepreneur, founder and CEO of the award-winning literary magazine in the state of Ohio, titled Africa Weekender. Currently, Emeka Aniagolu is the Executive Director for Research, Innovation and Development at Fides et Ratio Limited, an Abuja-based corporation. His works include African Glimpses, Beyond the Wealth of Nations, Standing on the Shoulders of Giants, Co-Whites, A Tale of Two Giants, The Hood and the Swastika, A Quiver of Arrows, Ozo, Hollows of the Mask, Ejima, and many more.
African Proverbs offers wisdom and poetry in just one sentence. Let's learn more about Proverbs in our next segment.
A proverb is a short, generally known sentence of the folk which contains wisdom, truth, morals, and traditional views in a metaphorical, fixed, and memorizable form, in which is handed down from generation to generation. Linguistically, proverbs are a source of figurative language and metaphor. It has also been described as the core of verbal interaction in Africa, and the palm oil with which words are eaten. Proverbs are part of every spoken language and are related to such other forms of folk literature as riddles and fables that have originated in oral tradition. Proverbs are words of wisdom, and they were first heard of in Egypt soon after 3000 BC. Types of Proverbs. Proverbs expressing a general attitude. Ethical Proverbs. Proverbs expressing a system of values. Proverbs expressing general truth. Humorous Proverbs. Miscellaneous Proverbs. Examples of proverbs abound in many languages and tradition. Here are a few of them. Early to bed, early to rise, makes a man healthy, wealthy, and wise. Happy is the man that findeth wisdom, and the man that getteth understanding. A soft answer turneth away wrath, but grievous words stir up anger. Absence makes the heart grow fonder. Actions speak louder than words. Importance of proverbs in literature. It is a figurative expression, a stylistic device used to achieve a desired semantic force. They express intellectual and emotional attitude. Example: intention, sympathy, apology, regret, warning, congratulations, attract attention, approval, and more. It is a powerful and effective instrument for the transmission of culture, social morality, manners, and ideas of a people from one generation to another. It reflects the ethnography of the people, strengthens tradition of a society. It is used to illuminate and buttress the wisdom of the traditional code of conduct.
Proverbs in Africa, no doubt, is a veritable tool for the transmission of wisdom and truths from one generation to another. Up next is Africa's wise saying. And on this note, remember, Africa is a beautiful continent with beautiful people. Bye.